It's strange to remember how we used to think, as if everything were available to us, as if there were no contingencies, no boundaries, as if we were free to shape and reshape forever the ever, expanding perimeters of our lives. These words come from a woman who lived a horrific life in Gilead, reminiscing on her existence before her life becomes lifeless. In Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, a Christian fundamentalist government called the Republic of Gilead takes over a part of the United States. They establish a theoretical government that restricts everyone. Few men take control and structure Gilead to hold all of the power. They have full control over all women and are almost their puppeteers. Women are stripped of their jobs, educational opportunities, and removed of all their rights and respect. They're also not allowed to read or write, and they're basically treated as objects. Margaret Atwood wrote this novel using speculative fiction, theorizing possible futures. She'd once told the website Literacy Hub that she would not include anything that human beings had not already done in some place or time. She didn't want to misrepresent the potential of horrific behavior, but rather instead display events that have already occurred and spread awareness, warning society of the way that we may be leading to some path of destruction. The story is so powerful and important to read in the present time, which is why I believe that Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale should be the recipient of the 2020 United Nations Book Award. Margaret Atwood used the power of presenting multiple social issues to highlight the main problem of gender inequality. The story of a woman named June, who is referred to as Offred, who is cleared of her respect, power, and dignity. Her name alone, of Fred, to clearly demonstrate who she belonged to and deliberately eliminating her identity, her name. Offered among all the women deemed to be reproductive in Gilead are forced into being enslaved for sex and owned by a commander, deemed to be a handmaid, to reproduce and increase fertility rates. So with reproductive trafficking, oppression, overall gender inequality, and the correlation to religion, Margaret does an incredible job putting the reader in the character's shoes. We are made to feel like we are a handmaid, enslaved to all men, and obligated to obey by every rule and command. Interestingly, the story also has a cast of women who are married to commanders who are part of the elite and must, as their role, enforce the roles of the lower caste women, the Marthas, or the maids, and handmaids. Basically, a woman oppressing woman to fulfill male destiny. The importance of this novel is beyond an explanation, as it opens up the eyes for not only just women across the world, but also men. The feminist novel has strengthened and empowered millions of women and educated men to be better and learn of their past mistakes. It has taught people about the importance of independence and questioning authority, and has empowered people to think for themselves outside of conventional social norms. Although the story of this novel is fiction, similar events did and still do occur daily, perhaps not to a certain extent, but in many third world countries, women must deal with this length of oppression and it's normalized. Forced surrogacy and reproductive trafficking is very much still existing in our society. We may not hear or see it happening before our eyes in Canada because we're so lucky to live in a relatively safe country, but that does not mean that it doesn't exist anywhere else. Women are made to reproduce children and then they must abandon them and move on to create more. These women are starved, beaten, and treated like absolute garbage. In some areas and cultures in India, one can see some similarities to components of Gilead. Women learn to stay as pure as possible in keeping their innocence until marriage. They avoid eye contact with men and grow to become shy. They also have commercial surrogates because there are areas so poor that they're desperate for money, bearing children for income. As I've just previously mentioned, we are so lucky in Canada as we have less blatant behavior, conditioning, and actions, but with that we still deal with gender inequality. We live in a country that, through inaction, has allowed the lives of Indigenous women to go uncounted for, numerous raped, beaten, and missing women that advocates and allies continue to fight to be a voice for. Here in our safe country, we have gender-based violence, sexual assault, a gender wage gap, and harassment of women in poverty. Girls grow up to be automatically sexualized, demeaned of their value, and stereotyped in disgusting ways. Growing up to believe that sexual attractiveness is an important part of identity. Feeling as though girls are not good enough to pursue a career in STEM, or judged on what clothes they wear, and how that can correlate to whether a boy is able to touch a girl without consent. Girls go through an endless amount of struggles daily that may not even be recognized as problems because they're so normalized. With keeping this attitude of sexism and misogyny, it can shape our society to form the false setting of Gilead and make it a reality. With that, Margaret did state that there's nothing in the book that didn't happen, which is very chilling to hear. The 1970 and 1980s rise of the Christian right in America and the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran were much of an inspiration to Margaret. Atwood had also dedicated the novel to Mary Webster, who was a woman of 17th century New England who was wrongly accused and mistreated, hung to her death, but she managed to escape. So this was a sense of hope for Atwood as she learned that she survived and made it through everything that those men had put her through. I believe that Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale is such an incredible book to focus on the terrible outcome of our future if we do not fix our current societal issues. The problem of gender equality that exists throughout the world is slowly but not surely being fixed, and it can take centuries to adjust. Margaret published The Handmaid's Tale in 1986, which is around the time that the feminist movement was happening, which obviously heavily inspired the novel. And she inspired so many people to stand up for what they believe in. And she brought light to a situation that was extremely relevant today and back then. We must continue to spread this awareness and use our power as women to stand up for what we believe in. With women standing for women, men standing up as allies against that goal, women supporting each other rather than constantly competing, women taking their place side by side with men to make a positive impact on the world through and against gender stereotypes and inequalities.